Welcome. Today, Lauren, Christine, and I are going to be talking about sun transits 46 and 18. We're going to explore around, see what we can learn and what we can play with over the next two periods of 11 and a half days. And so just sort of jump in here, see what a little bit about what sun transit 46 is about.
Yeah, I know I said I wouldn't do this, but actually, so we're recording a little early this time, and we've just entered gate 6 today on the 15th. And so we've just exited gate 47, which is this Ajna gate, which I just think is interesting because when we look at the different lines, there's 6 lines in each gate, each transit. The first line is always kind of indicative of the energy of that gate in general, and the first line in gate 47 is taking stock. And then the sixth line in gate 47 is futility. And so I will say that I did notice some of that over this past week. I noticed a lot of this kind of people trying to take stock again, this mental energy. What's going on? Like, what the heck is happening, right? We had a lot of really crazy things happen in the world this past week. And also, I got several notes from people in my jewelry business where I always send out like a good thing that's going on in the world. And multiple people this time got back and said, "Thanks so much for sending that thing because I really needed to hear that." And so I thought about this like futility feeling also, right? Like people were taking stock and there was this sense like, oh my God, is any of this ever going to be right? Like, does anything I'm doing making any sense or is it worthwhile? And so I just thought it was interesting. Like, I really do think it kind of came up very specifically in that time frame. Not to say that there's not lots of other crazy things going on, but um, just interesting for me that it came up. And so, again, we're in gate 6 right now. We'll be through this gate in a few days. And then on um, September 5th, no, I'm sorry, I'm totally on my wrong dates here. September 21st, the actual equinox is when we will step into gate 46. And it's also when we step into this new eighth of the wheel. We've been in this, the lower bigram has been water. It's been this abysmal, this deep kind of space where we're really looking at things pretty deeply and feeling things deeply. There's just this depth to that area. And we're moving into this wind space, which is called the gentle. And it is kind of this gentle influence. The wind in this area is very much like this idea of like, seeds flowing on the wind, like new things happening, but in this very kind of gentle way, which sounds great to me, given that the world doesn't feel super gentle at the moment. So that's the overarching feeling for these next 6 or 8 gates, actually, until Samhain. And so from the equinox until Samhain, we'll be in this wind energy. In gate 46 specifically, it's the gate of the determination of the self. It's an identity center gate. It's a love gate. It's very much about love of the body, love, and it's also this higher self-love too. Love of like a transcendent kind of love, right? Not so much romantic love or even love of another human being, but just this idea that we are love, right? That's what gate 46 is really about. And it's also called pushing upward in the I Ching. And, it is this space where, you know, in the gene key, the shadow is seriousness, right? And the gift is delight, and the city is ecstasy. So there is this whole idea of like, we are all love, yet we get caught in this not love space all the time. And I specifically have a lot of gate 46 in my design, so I really feel this gate a lot and I have a good sense of it, and that seriousness thing, that shadow really speaks to me, like. And so I think about this showing up for us in these next few days, like this idea of being serious about things where we could be more gentle, we could be more loving, we could be more playful and joyful, and just being mindful of this idea that the world is a serious place. And yes, it is. And also the opposite is true too. It's also a beautiful and lovely place. And to just be playing around with that a little bit, I think in this time might be interesting.
As you were sharing, I was thinking about how we get caught up in this whirl of seriousness and that everything's important and like everything is like a fire that needs to be put out. And thinking about the people I work with in business, and they get so caught in the what's being required of them that they can't see past it. And it's actually dragging them down and making them sick because they're just keep putting in the effort and putting in the effort and trying and trying and trying. And there's no end to it because like in the I Ching, this is like this idea of this upward sprouting of the like the new plant. But the new plant naturally grows and blossoms, right? But they in this circumstances I'm talking about, there's no growing and blossoming going on. It's this constant push that's going on.
Yeah, and that push, I mean, we need that push in a plant because that's what opens the seed. And so from the I Ching translation I refer to of Hilary Barrett's, her question is this something you can commit to? And it's a commitment, and pushing something open requires a commitment. And some of the themes I'm taking away from it and listening to both of you is this is a very incremental time. I think that's an important word for us to kind of hold on to. And incremental isn't something that is in our culture. We're flash in the pan, do it now, and incremental is gentle, it's kind, it's compassionate, yet there's still this push. It requires energy and sustaining and commitment, all of those things.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Lauren, because so this gate 46 attaches in the human design body graph to gate 29, and together Gate 29 is saying yes. And so together they form this channel of discovery. And it is a very experiential energy. It wants to go and experience new things. It wants to say yes to life, right? It wants to say yes to love and say yes to the higher self, the non-seriousness, the delight, right? Like this is what it's looking for. It wants more delight. And it is attached in a very direct way to this energy of beginnings, middles, and endings, right? This idea of commitment, right? And so being aware of what we start, because there is a real energy in this energy to finish, even if it's not delighting you, right? And so this is a great time to really pay attention to what you're being asked to start or what you're feeling pushed to start, and really taking stock, which we just came out of, right? Taking stock of like, is this actually correct for me? Do I actually have energy for this, right? Am I just saying yes because I have this energy to want something different to happen, but it isn't maybe the right different thing to happen, right? So this is a really excellent, it's really interesting that that came out naturally from what Hilary Barrett has said too.
And in that, it sort of leads to what Richard Rudd talks about in this, having to pay attention to what's going on in our bodies in this, because like when I was referring to with people getting sick because they keep doing probably what maybe they really shouldn't be doing, or they're not doing it the way they should be doing it, is that our bodies tell us, and then we don't listen to them until they start screaming at us. So is to step back and start paying attention sooner, because your body's talking to you all the time. And yeah.
You know, when I was reading material on this, I was reminded of a time before my farming chapter in life where we were hiking a lot. And my husband and I spent months up in the Pyrenees in France. And I don't like to hike uphill. I like to hike along crests of hills, but to get up to see and to have those beautiful views and to have all the things you gain up above, you have to commit. And you can't, by the way, I've tried in the middle of the hike saying, you know, I don't really want to do this anymore. you have to keep going. But I get this visual, even while you each are talking, of almost these stone steps, right? Coming up, and we can choose whether we're going to be harsh with ourselves going up those steps, or playful. And that was something I had to learn myself, was how do I turn this into a game for myself, and so I can put some joy into it, so it's just not trudging up something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's the other thing that actually Gate 46 is heavily associated with in human design is good fortune.
Mm.
It's being in the right place at the right time, right? And so it's interesting to me that, there is all this seriousness aspect to it and this, kind of some exactly what you just said, like this commitment and following through. There's some of that energy there. But there is also this really profound ability to just, again, kind of surrender to the goodness of life and things show up, right? And this might be another thing to play around with in this few days. Is just like maybe I don't have to push. Maybe even though this is pushing upward, again, this is the seed, this is coming up through the ground, but that's its natural inclination, right? Like it's not going out, it's not doing that outside of its bailiwick. That's exactly what it's supposed to be doing, right? It's not an effort for it. It is the life that's happening. And so that is also partly that's also true for us too, right? The life is happening, and whether or not we meet it with openness and ability to be like to allow the serendipity that can happen, like this is a time where that serendipity very often does show up, and so just playing around with that might be really interesting.
It kind of requires us to stop fighting life.
Mm.
It's just and paying attention to what works and what doesn't work. And like you said, in the things, how when you sort of settle down and step back, things seem to move in a natural way. But as long as you're pushing and pushing and pushing, you just seem to run up against an obstacle all the time. So if you're constantly running up against obstacles, I mean, the same here because we live in the mountains, and so every walk starts with a big uphill, right? But then there's the beauty when you get up to the top. But that's something that you decided to do, and you know that there's going to be a path that's got some difficulty in it, which wouldn't be any different than if you were in taking courses in university. You know that there's going to be challenges, but it's almost like it's a planned pathway rather than, oh my God, there's just another obstacle and another obstacle.
So for a Gemmo for this particular time for gate 46, I would look to an adaptogen. And an adaptogen is really special in its ability to meet you wherever you are and help you through the stress of whatever's coming up, whether it's mental, physical, or emotional. And in our grouping of adaptogens for the nervous system, there are actually three. There's oat, there's blackthorn, and there's silver birch seed. I think any of those could be useful at this time. I like silver birch seed, particularly for this time, and there's something that really drew me to it, besides just the fact that it gives that mental energy and that ability to go the distance. That's something it does different than the others. Is the oracle for the silver birch tree is to step into your light so you can serve your community. And I think that's what we're doing. We're committing to doing the thing, whatever our thing is, to be of service. I think if you're coming into this period feeling really unresourced, then I would look to oat and build up your reserves a little bit. But I think those could offer really some special energy and support for you during this 5.5 day period.
Yeah, I like that because it's a seed. I think it's the only Gemmo that's a seed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fitting for pushing upwards for sure. Um, and also like what you were talking about, like this is, I didn't mention it, but this is a collective energy, right? This is a a collective energy looking for new experiences, right? And so being resourced in that space, like how do I resource myself so that I can be of service and in community and engaged, right? Like this is another thing we really struggle with on the planet right now is really just being engaged with each other in community, right? And so I think about that as just, and we can't be engaged with others until we're resourced internally, right?
Christine, I have to add another thing because you said that about community is silver birch tree only grows in community. They won't grow alone. And then their community spreads. And what a great metaphor for us right now in this time. You get a couple birch trees going, and then suddenly you've got a whole stand of them. And I think that's what we're seeing happening out in the world, small groups coming together, doing something a little different, and then their energy grows.
Well, and they're not, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not super long-lived trees
No,
either,
no,
right?
they're
And
a
so
pioneer. Yeah.
yeah, they're a pioneer tree, and I think that they also they mimic this idea that we're running experiments, right? And we're part of cycles, right? Like this energy is very much about beginning, middles, and ends. Like a silver birch is a tree that you can see the full cycle of that tree in your lifetime multiple times. That's not the case for all trees, right? I mean,
Well, this is a problem because you're going to get me geeking out on silver birch more than I already am. But here's something else that's really cool, and is they drop their limbs to fortify the forest floor for others. And anyone that's a hiker has tripped on or walked over silver birch limbs, and you're like, oh, poor tree. They do that on purpose. They shed their limbs. So, thinking about that too, they're shedding part of themselves for the next generation.
yeah, I just think it's such an interesting, perfect energy for this particular channel and this particular gate. So I think that's really fun that I love that all this stuff just like lines up.
Oh, and don't forget, we've got the new moon in Virgo starting off that gate, right? On the 21st.
Yeah, right. That's true. And it's an
The
eclipse too,
eclipse.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a ton of energy on the 21st this year.
One thing that's come up in this talk about play is, and I think that'd be a wonderful practice right now, is to be more playful and like not in a competitive way, more like in playing old maid cards rather than betting with each other. But it's like every time I introduce what we're going to do, I talk about playing with things over the next two periods of 5 days, 5.5 days. And is in that not taking it so seriously, because a lot of people take their spiritual development and their health development very seriously, and almost so seriously that it undermines them. It's so just this idea of playing with, experimenting with, and seeing what happens rather than going, oh, I've got the answer here.
Yeah, that's super true for me because, like I said, I have 46 like 5 or 6 times in my design, which is pretty unusual. And I have had to be much more cognizant of the seriousness, right? It is definitely in my design. I definitely feel it like, oh my God, this is so heavy. This is such a big, how am I going to fix this thing, right? Like, this is awful, right? And it's like just noticing, just playing around with noticing when you're serious. Maybe that's just the first step. Like, am I being serious? Like, am I feeling like this is super serious? Is there, can I take even one tiny step back and see if this isn't really as serious as my natural inclination is? That's something I've been working on for months now. So it is helpful, I will say that. All right, are we on to gate 18? Have we said
Yeah,
all the
let's do
things
it.
about 46? Okay. All right. So as we step out of gate 46, we slide into gate 18 on September 26th. So we're getting towards the end of the month on these gates. Gate 18 is the gate of correction and working on what has been spoilt is the I Ching version, which I also carry this gate in my design, and so I also am quite familiar with it. It is what it sounds exactly what it sounds like, correction. It is part of the channel of judgment. There is a lot of energy for people that have this gate to be pointing out to other people where they're wrong. I personally don't have this problem.
Never. Mm.
And so, we will all be in this energy. We will all have this background energy of correction and seeing flaws, seeing where things could be improved, making things better, this desire to make things better. And that's truly the underlying energy here. It's connected to gate 58 in the channel, which is essentially the most joyful gate in our design. It is the gate of joy. And the reason we want to correct things is to get to the joy. We want to make things better for ourselves and for everybody. Again, it's a collective gate. We want to really make things better for everyone. But very often this energy just gets spilled out in the world. People see something that's wrong. They say something to whomever. That person is not interested in the correction, and things go bad from there, right? So this is an energy that really needs to be invited. And so paying attention to where, especially in this time period, the 26th to October 1st, you may notice more things that aren't right. Not to say that there's not a bajillion things that we're already noticing that aren't right. But just practicing, like noticing it and just not saying anything, right? Because until somebody's asking for your insights, it's very likely it's not going to land. And just getting comfortable with this idea that I can know this stuff, I can see how things can be better, but just telling people that is not very useful, and really in the end usually it comes back to bite us in the butt. I think we all have experiences of that, so paying attention to that in this period will probably be really useful.
Yeah. Well, in Gene Keys, the shadow is judgment in this one. And there's a similarity with gate 46 here, because like as seriousness being the shadow, there's nothing wrong with seriousness and there's nothing wrong with judgment. It's just when they go too far that we have an issue with them. And this is one thing I've worked on with people a fair bit. It's like we can't stop judging. It just happens. But is then what do we do with that judgment? It's like you say, like there's this keeping it to yourself at times. But what I've worked on people is working towards discernment, is like so that there's some reflection that goes on to, am I just making a judgment? And what's it that judgment on behalf of? Because when you move into discerning instead, you're in a place of being able to choose, is this a good thing to be happening now or not a good thing to be happening now, and make your choice on your actions. But if you're just going to judge it, then you're going to go, it's good or it's bad, and just flow with it. Mm-hmm. So being able to discern, I think, makes a big difference for people.
That's interesting, because that word discernment goes right into the I Ching interpretation of this, and particularly Hillary's. And the question she's asking is a discerning one, is what's behind this? What's behind the trouble? And then I have thought about this a lot in recent times, is rather than what's going on, but what's behind what's going on. And it's the story behind the story. And I think this might be a really good period to, and that's really a higher view, is what's really going on here, not the nitpicky, you did this or that shouldn't be like that. But I think it feels to me like this time is about widening our view, and expanding the way we might look at things, which personally I feel like is a great thing that if we could all do it right now. And in that, examining our own patterns and ourself as we move through that.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think it's also really tricky. Like this gate 18 is in the spleen. The spleen is a very fast acting, it's a spontaneous energy, it's an intuitive, instinctual energy, right? It wants to speak what it knows, or it wants to move the body in the moment, right? Like that's what it's trying to do. And so this energy is very much looking out into the world to see essentially what's safe and what's not, right? And this corrections piece is part of that, right? Like, oh, that's not working right. That doesn't look good. That could be unsafe, right? And so we're all doing that all the time. And I think about what you said, Lois, about discernment, and I think a lot about the different, I think it's an interesting distinction because discernment and judgment are definitely different, right? And I think about judgment being like reaction and discernment being like response, right? And there's so many generator types on the planet, right? This that mostly our strategy is to respond. And so, but to respond, you have to pause. You know, you can't, something can't come at you and you immediately have that is a reaction, right? The reaction is always there, but the response takes a moment, right? Just like discernment. Like I can see things that are messed up in the world and I can be all upset about them in the moment, judging them. But when I stop and pause, then I can really get to the story behind the story, right? Like what's really going on here, right? I feel this thing, it's alive in me, it's activating me. Why? Right? What is it about that? And so this pausing piece and slowing down just in general in life would be great for everyone, but it may be a really great practice, this particular gate, just because it does want to move so fast. Giving yourself some time to actually think through what you're seeing and feeling could be really helpful.
Yeah. And it's like then there's this individual aspect of it. And then I was thinking about sort of the communal aspect of it, where we're kind of live in a swamp of judgment. I mean, like the gossip and the different things that we see and hear around us. And so even if we could be trying to pull ourselves away from that, it's kind of coming at us from different directions. And so being able to look at the sort of like what's coming at us. And I know like with coaching, I've encouraged people to sort of slow down the water cooler talk kind of thing, not get caught up in that because it colors how their whole day goes. And so just, stepping away, like you say, step away, take a pause. And so it could be a pause from your own emotion that's come, but it could also be a pause from what's coming at you. Yeah.
So I have a Gemmo for this week, and this one, it has to do with softening judgment, and that's almond. And almond, in its highest essence, illuminates, and it allows us to be open and receive. But I think it also gives us that opportunity for exactly what you're talking about, Christine, intelligent deliberation, to slow things down, think about, attend and examine. And when we're softening our judgment on ourselves, then we soften our judgment on others. It's interesting because the extract too has this antioxidant action where it's releasing free radicals in the body. It's seeking them out, and then so it's getting rid of what isn't serving us, which then clears our vision and our ability to see things. It also improves oxygenation to the brain, giving us the ability to think more clearly. So I think across the board, this might be a really sweet extract to work with in this period.
I love that almond is working on what's been spoiled.
Exactly. Out of the way.
Right.
Sweeps it out.
And that's also a splenic thing too, right? Like so people that have an undefined spleen, that's the thing we look to as the not self. Are you holding on to things that no longer serve you, right? And so it's interesting that those all align there.
There's one other thing that came up for me when I was sort of prepping for this is Richard Rudd makes a comment about all judgment being self-judgment, which sort of takes me into shadow work. Whereas, if I'm judging something that you've done, in a negative way, or actually in a positive way as well, there's an aspect of my shadow has showed up, right? So that you may have done something, and then I'm going, well, I never do that. You'd never catch me doing that. But then to say, well, that's because I'm projecting onto you. And that can go in the other way too with the golden shadow, because you could do something that's really marvelous. And what disconnecting to is there's that in me too, but I'm not seeing it. So if I'm, really admiring something that one of you's done, there's that ability to turn around and go, okay, so where is that in me? It won't be the same as yours, but it's there somehow, or I wouldn't recognize it. So just to watch all of these projections, because we're projecting all the time, which makes everybody a mirror for us and an opportunity to see ourselves if we're willing to look there.
Love that. This is definitely a good time to practice that. This will be the gate for you.
Well, there's always something to practice, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking too, there was something that one of you said about like this what's spoiled and looking at sort of the root of things and in the sort of on an individual or a small group perspective. But this is something I've been thinking about for decades is we constantly look at what's going on in society and trying to find fixes for it. But very rarely do we want to look back to what actually is the deep cause, the systemic issue that's going on. So whether you're looking at like hunger or homelessness or violence or any of those things, is like we can't just patchwork fix those things up.
Mm-hmm.
We need to go back and look at
Mm-hmm.
why are people even behaving that way? What in our world has caused them to do that? And I don't know, maybe that's too big a project for our world.
For 5.5 days, I think we could do it, Lois.
So getting at the root of what's going on. Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of that story. There's some apocryphal story about, somebody being rescued from a stream, right? They're drowning and people pull them out. And then 20 seconds later, there's somebody else coming down the stream that's drowning, right? And they're like, we can't keep pulling people out of the stream. Like, what's going on that they're falling in the stream, right? And so so they go upstream, right? I listened to a podcast that's called Upstream because they took that metaphor and used it. And that is it, right? We have to go upstream. Like, why are these people drowning in the stream? So, but yeah, we're not. I think that's a lot of conditioning, right? Like we in America, especially, are not conditioned to look back. We're not really conditioned to contemplate. We're not really conditioned. We're very much like, oh, somebody's drowning. We'll just keep pulling that, the next person out, the next person out, right? Like we're not, symptoms for being sick. We don't look deeper than that. We fix the symptom and then we're healed, right? Like so. I feel like that's just our own culture, unfortunately, that's really given us that worldview. But that doesn't mean that's going to be our worldview going forward. I think we're all figuring out that that's not serving us very well. So it's a great time to let it go.
Yeah, well, and to actually take a deeper look at this, even like you said, for 5.5 days, we could, take the plunge and see what we see. We might not like it, or we might find that there's something different we could do. Yeah, that was hopeful. There we are. We're done again. All right. So thank you for being with us, and we hope we'll see you next time.